Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. It's Sunday morning where we are, and we're switching things up. A great episode planned, in my opinion. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
It's a rainy morning. Yet another day of rain, it feels like.
I know.
But that's okay because summer's going to come and then it's going to be 110 and we're going to be missing this.
Yeah, that's true. I also wanted this at the start of this winter season. I was like, please just rain a lot. And the hikes are replenished with water, and it's so magnificent, and it makes me happy.
Yeah, I feel so happy because yesterday I got to take my dad on a hike. And if you don't know, he's had 2 hip replacements in the past 2 years, and it's been like this whole long healing journey. And that was my goal, was to get him out and to show him the water that was flowing. And we did it. And that just, I don't know, it made me so beyond happy. Like, I can't even express it.
Yeah, Tess sent me a video of her dad, and he's just enjoying the water, and he looks over the camera and he's like,
he does like his like baby
oh, that's
wave.
Cute. Yeah. Cute.
But yeah.
Anyway, we're going to start off with this is sad. Some shows we've been watching. That's a horrible introduction.
Okay, yeah.
It's because Tess has something to share with some show that she was watching last night.
Now it's all like, I don't know. I feel like the entry point is like messy now. However,
no.
Okay, so it's been really rainy and cold, right? And we don't normally stay inside a lot, but we've been like succumbed to the couch because there's,
correct.
Really not much we can do outside right now.
Right.
And that's fine. So what we've been doing is watching a lot of TV. Classic.
Oh, fuck.
It's okay.
No, it's really nice,
It's a
honestly.
season.
It's a nice change. Yeah.
So we've been obviously watching, which I feel like everyone's watching right now, is the what is it? The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah, but we didn't watch the last episode, and we have a
No.
new one coming out tonight.
So we'll have to.
We got off track a little.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like the one on, was it HBO?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's not necessary. Everyone's like, oh, I don't really like zombie stuff, but like, it's not really zombie stuff. It's way deeper than that.
Yeah, it's like post-apocalyptic sort of, and the main character, the main actor is
Sexy as.
Honestly, a lot of times when I watch a show, I have to connect to a character, whether I think like they're hot or like I enjoy their story. I have to connect in some way, or else I'm like, bored.
So we've been watching that, obviously Below Deck. Duh.
Yeah.
And then, is there anything else that we've been watching? Oh, Narcos.
Oh, yeah. We're late to the game on Narcos. But again, I'm saying it incorrectly because I can't roll my R's. But Pedro Pascal is one of the main characters, and he's the main character in The Last of Us. And
Yeah.
Fucking A. I just love him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So beyond that, last night I was with my other best friend, Sydney, and it's like a chilly night. Like, there's really nothing for us to be doing. So we just hunkered down and watched Love is Blind, the latest season. Have you heard of Love is Blind?
No. I mean, yes, I have heard of that,
Okay.
but what is the concept?
So basically, there's like equal amount of men and women, and they never see each other. They live in separate quarters. And like for a week, which is not even that long, they go in and they have dates, but they're in separate quarters and they can't see each other. So they're basically sitting in this room on this couch, and they've got like a table in front of them and whatever. And they're talking to the other person on the other side of the wall, but they can't see each other. And a lot of them stay true to the experiment of like, is love blind? Like, can you fall in love with someone based on their personality and like what they have going on behind the scenes versus their looks?
That's
Okay,
that's cool.
So then it gets
scary.
to the point where they're dating each other, and they just really get to know each other on the deeper levels. Some of them do, right? Some of them stay like surface level and it doesn't really work out for them.
Okay.
But the people who dive deeper and really get to know each other, they end up proposing marriage within like the week, and they've never seen each other. They propose marriage, and when you say yes, then you finally get to see the person. Then once you said yes and you see the person, you see each other for like a total of maybe 2 minutes. You walk down this hallway. These doors open. You walk down this hallway. You meet each other. You hug. He gives you the ring. And then you're like, okay, bye. Then you go your separate ways. Then everybody who got engaged, because there was like, I don't know, maybe 5 couples that got engaged on this first 2 episodes. I was like, what the fuck is happening here?
That's almost feels very performative to me. Like, is there an incentive to propose?
Okay, so then once they propose, then they go into, quote, the real world, right? Where they were, I think, filming that, like those pod things where they're not seeing each other in Atlanta.
Okay.
Then they come out, they went to Malibu, of course, kind of like The Bachelor. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
They go to Malibu and now they're like staying together and like, you know, sleeping with each other and like seeing each other's mannerisms and stuff like that. And then they go and they meet each other's families. And it's like this whole thing. What the fuck? Now, Sydney told me that some of these couples from like the first season or two have actually stayed together. Some couples obviously have parted ways. But I'm sitting there going, is this really happening? Now, I don't want to place judgment on it because I don't know, maybe they really are finding love with each other. But in the beginning, it just felt like, wait, what? You've only talked to them a few times in the past week and now you're ready to say, yeah, I want to marry you. You're because you've enjoyed a couple of conversations, you're willing to commit the rest of your life to that person.
Right.
It just seems a little bit cuckoo. That's judgmental though, but like it really does seem like, wait, are you sure about that?
Well, I wonder if they do some sort of screening beforehand. Each participant has to want love so badly or want to be married, and then they put all of them on one show so that it's just bound to result in a proposal.
Yeah.
Not saying that they're desperate for that, but maybe it's like their main life goal.
Yeah. And that's based on what you hear them talk about when they're in that like dating phase. That's very true. They're like, are you ready for marriage and a long-term commitment? Are you ready for kids? And like the very like standard path there.
Right.
And it's such an interesting social experiment that if you watch Love is Blind, then you know about it. But if you don't, like, this was a foreign concept to me. I'm like, wait, people really do this?
Yeah, that's really interesting to me. And it is interesting to me because I just cannot relate at all to that. So, yeah, I don't even know there's a lot that I can say, really. I don't know.
I just don't feel in my body at this time in my life, and this could obviously change, but like I don't feel like marriage is this goal that I have to reach like as soon as possible. Of course, someday I would love to be married and to have that whole thing, but like that's not my main driver right now. And obviously it is theirs. They were willing to put their lives on pause and to go try to find their life partner in this like social experiment.
Right. And referring back to one of the episodes that we just did about someone's light being on, and then they kind of choose the person that's in their immediate circle to get married to or be boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is their light is shining, fucking high beams are on. Yeah. Yeah. They're ready. And they might not care. Yeah. I don't know. And then it also is really interesting to me that is televised for our entertainment, because I feel like we really love extremes, and that is so fucking extreme that it's entertaining to us because we're like, how can they do it, you know? And then I'm just like, it's a lie. But I don't know. People do find love, like you said. So that's fucking great.
Well, it just felt like the whole process was rushed. Like you honestly have only known each other a week, and I get it. Like that can happen out in the real world too. You meet someone, you're like, I'm so meant to be in this life with you. Like, yes. However, I just feel like, I don't know. It was just new to me. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, that's
like
very
it
new.
was just whoa.
Well, and I'm trying to think if I've ever felt that way. I definitely can recognize when I felt that way with a friend, purely platonic, and you meet them and you're like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with you. Like I have to hang out with you all the time. And then it fades eventually. And I'm like, that is a fear of mine. For many things. Like that's why I don't get tattoos, is because like so many things are always fleeting. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'd love to marry you. And then like 2 months down the line, I'm like, oh my God, that was impulsive. I'm not an impulsive buyer.
No, not an impulsive person in general.
No.
You're very intentional, very thought out.
Yes. Yeah. Which is good and bad.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like was laughing. I'm like, what would any of my girlfriends do in this position? Like if I saw Sydney in there, or if I saw Amanda or you.
I would be a terrible contestant on the show. I'd be like, I don't know if I like any of these people. I need to have a full screening. What do you look like?
After like 2 conversations with them, they're like, I love you, Madison. You're like, I can't handle this.
Yeah, exactly. Go. This is too overwhelming. I don't like that you're clingy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an interesting show. So if you're cooped up inside and you want a little entertainment.
Yeah, that is honestly like a social experiment.
Yeah. And there was like, I don't know, like these people that I'm watching do this process, I don't know, they seem like very legit. They seem pretty chill. Like none of them seem over the top, like so hungry for marriage. They're willing to do it with anybody. I mean, I guess kind of, but not really. You know, like there was one girl who got proposed to twice in the same day. Like some
Hot
guy.
commodity.
Well, yeah, based on her personality only. Crazy, right?
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, it's really cool. But yeah, she had to say no to the first guy and then she said yes to the second. It was just like, wow.
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 Yeah, that is interesting.
But something that I took away from it, watching that show last night, beyond the fact that it was purely entertaining, was that there's this concept that you really opened my eyes to that I saw really play out. And it's like the narratives that we tell ourselves. And there's obviously like some sit down interviews that the contestants have. I don't even want to call them contestants, right? But like that the people are having with the producers. And you hear over and over again these people with their narratives that they've lived with for years that have held them back from evolving and finding the love that they're after and all that stuff. You hear them talk about it and they're like blind to the fact that that's their narrative. For example, this one woman was saying like, I'm a ballerina and I feel like a lot of men are interested in me and like me in the beginning phases because of that title. Like there's some sexy allure of like, oh, she's like this ballerina and she's very feminine and she's got a great bod and like, you know, think about all the things that are associated with being a professional dancer. And then she's like, but then they start to date me and like within a few months they're gone. And so that's her narrative because it's happened to her a few times that she's like, well, now I'm afraid of like any guy that's interested in me. Like they want me just because I'm a ballerina and then they're going to get to know me and they're going to date me for a little bit and then they're going to dip.
Right. So she always has that in the back of her mind when she's dating someone new and maybe almost manifest in that way.
Yeah. And then there was like another guy who was a very successful businessman and he is talking about all of these monetary advancements he's made in his life and how many cool trips he's gone on and how like lavish his life has been. But then like that's his narrative of like, that's what makes me special. And then he ends up like getting rejected because the woman is like, well, that's like could be a cool life, but for a second. The man that I actually want to be with long term is not going to be hyper focused on those things. Like he's going to be funny and not as serious and like easy to come home to at night. And I don't know, it was just interesting that these people were not even aware of the fact that their narratives were holding them back.
Right. Yeah, I think because I see narratives in two ways of the narratives you tell yourself that hold you back and then the narrative you tell yourself that is your identity. I guess they're both rooted in identity, but the narrative that also propels you forward or who you want to be.
Yeah.
And that, so then I don't necessarily think that having a narrative for yourself is bad unless maybe it holds you back from the life that you want.
Yeah, that's a totally valid and good point. And that reminds me of something I saw yesterday in a video was, I'm going to butcher it a little bit, but essentially it was along the lines of you have to stand confident in who you are and understand what you bring to the table and the value that you have as an individual, because there's going to be everybody around you, and not everybody, right? But like you're going to encounter lots of people and situations that are going to try to challenge that and keep you down. And so it's your job to like basically stand up and go, no, I know who I am. I know my value. I know what I stand for and proceed.
Yeah. I sometimes really like, and I don't know if I like it in the moment, but I usually do like the challenge that comes from, I almost said challenge again, from you being like your identity being challenged. Like I kind of like that.
Yeah, but it's really frustrating in the moment.
It is totally frustrating.
We've talked about this on the episodes, but like we've faced this multiple times in the past few months where
people think we're some way that we're not.
Yeah, and I'm like, what the hell? No, how are you getting this from this?
Yeah.
Like, are you serious?
Right. That is really,
but
it's crazy.
Okay, so like that's one way of my identity being challenged. And then another way is like this process that we're in right now of interviews, right? And like finding a job. You have X amount of time to showcase your value and who you are as a person. And you have to be like ready to go, ready to showcase that. And that can be really stressful some days, and some days it can be really easy depending on, I feel like, so many factors.
Yeah, I feel like on the days that it's stressful is because I am thinking about the expectations that maybe that person might have of the role, and I'm trying to meet that role versus actually like standing strong in who I am. You know?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So
then I guess, I mean, depending on where you're at and what your needs are, like, isn't it better just to try to meet the role less and try to fit into that box a little bit less, and just more so like, who am I? What type of worker am I? Yes, do I have the experience? But like, I feel like the times when I've tried to fit myself into that specific role is when I've fumbled the most.
Agreed.
Versus if I'm just like, yeah, hi, this is like my work experience, and like I'm really eager to learn and to be in this role, but maybe I don't have every single qualification, versus like pushing myself to be that.
Right. And I think that it is, even if you didn't get the role for being that way, I think that it is still rewarding that you showed who you are versus trying to fit the mold.
Okay. So I want to make like a quick pause there, because we were talking about this, I think yesterday, you and I had applied to this really cool marketing agency. There was this role that I really wanted, and I took advice from like people who are kind of in that industry right now and have those titles, and they helped me tailor my cover letter and my resume towards the role. Now, that sounds good in theory. However, what I found with myself is like rereading the cover letter, it almost feels a little bit out of touch with who I am as a person. Like there wasn't that much personality infused in it. And then that made me sad, because I'm like, well, now I'm not even getting the job. Like I hadn't heard back from the company, right? And I'm like, but that wasn't even my best foot forward. That was the foot that like felt maybe like the best fit for them.
Right.
But like it wasn't even really me. Like when I read the paragraphs back, I'm like, who is she?
Right.
Like it was so over the top, like kind of professional, that there wasn't that much of Tess in there, because I am very like, I don't know, I feel like outgoing and like light and, you know, just have more personality than what I showcase. And that made me sound like, why the fuck did I send that in? Like I could have probably landed at least an interview if I had put a little bit more of me in there. Now that's just me assuming that, but at least if I had put myself a little more forward,
you wouldn't have these questions.
Yes. Now I'm like, oh, well, fuck, do they not like me because I don't have enough personality in my cover letter?
Right.
So just be yourself.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yes. Moral of the story, be yourself always. And also just trust in yourself and your abilities. But then I do understand why you sought outside help, because they're already in the company and they're in that sort of market. Yep. So yes, I would love your advice, but maybe a little bit more Tess in there.
Now I will say, since I hadn't heard back, and I hadn't heard back from honestly a lot of companies, and that was really weighing heavy on me. I'm like, what the fuck? Am I ever going to land a new job that's going to help me move? All those things. I have been sending out and like reaching out to contacts, and I've made a new cover letter that was way more suited to me. And I have 2 interviews lined up for next week with completely different companies. But, and I'm like, oh, well, obviously opportunities that are better suited for me are going to come my way, especially when I put my personality at the forefront. So yeah, I don't know. I just feel like maybe not always, like some really corporate companies don't necessarily want to see your personality, but companies that are a little bit more on the creative end, like what I'm kind of pursuing, yeah, they want to see personality.
Yeah, for sure. I would agree with that.
So yeah.
And then I also think that that's applicable to how other people are, like if we're authentic in a space where we're hanging out with people and then some person takes our actions the wrong way, I feel like we've encountered this not too many times, but a few times over the last few months. And at first we look at ourselves and we're like, is it us? Like, are we rude or bitchy, whatever you want to say? But honestly, I feel like we're really quick to change our narrative on that and say that we're just authentically us, and everyone has their own perception and perspective of us. So how can we, I can't control that.
Yeah.
You know? Like you can to a certain extent, but at the end of the day, I'm not going to let that bother me.
Well, yeah. You know? And I think, like you were saying, a lot of people, like a lot of misunderstandings and miscommunication comes from the perspective and the position that everybody's in, right? Even ourselves. So
No, I'm just thinking like.
Why are you laughing?
No, I was just thinking of like, is really crazy. Like we don't really try to please anyone other than ourselves, like not really. Maybe like
employers
sometimes, yes, like to a certain extent, yes, that's true. But at the end of the day, I feel like just pleasing ourselves and like obviously being respectful of our loved ones and things and of other people, like that's good enough. I'm not going to go to like the furthest lengths where I'm just exhausting myself to try and please other people, because sometimes doing that doesn't even work, Yeah. So fuck it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not. Yeah, it's interesting.
Well, and I think that we are luckily very kind and chill people to the core naturally. Like that's just the position we're in right now. That's how we show up with everybody. And if that gets perceived in a different way, well then that tells me a little bit about where that person might be coming from.
Yeah, and it is crazy because sometimes that is perceived as, if we're chill, we're more observant in a social place, it can be perceived as they're bitches
and judgmental.
They're quiet. They're not talking to me.
Yeah.
So they're obviously talking shit about us because they're quiet over there. Crazy. I'm like, yo, we're just trying to live over here. I don't care.
Honestly, like I'm just a little bit tired today and like I don't feel like talking. How is that rude?
Expend energy at this moment. Yeah, interesting. But anyway.
Perspective.
Yeah, change in perspective. Great segue. I was talking to Tess about this, that I wanted to bring this up on the podcast, that I've been working on this project that I got from my mom's friend. And it is like, it's in the realm of producing podcasts and YouTube videos. So I'm kind of used to it because we do our podcast. But the subject matter is within communities that I am not very knowledgeable about. And I feel, so for context, it has to do with physical disabilities, the blind, the deaf, hard of hearing, visually impaired. And that is very overwhelming to me because I am neither of those things. And so it almost makes me feel like I am an imposter within that community. And so I've been intimidated by this project the whole time I've been working on it for the last few months. And then the other day, something clicked. And I have been speaking to many women that I've been in the community, which has been helpful to me. And it clicked that I just need to change my perspective with that entire role. And now I feel a lot better about it. Like I'm just a person who's willing to learn about that space and help in any way that I can. And that's enough versus me being the most knowledgeable person in the world, like having all these answers for the problems we're trying to solve. Like I don't need to be that. I just need to be where I am and also have a respectable, gentle, effective approach. And that's great.
Perfect. Yeah, honestly, very well said, Mad. I'm super impressed because that, especially when it comes to the world of disabilities and kind of like, I mean, I know that the podcast is very isn't it contracted by the Department of Mental Health? Like we're talking, this is like a bigger picture, like a big agency. There's like a lot of people who are very, very educated asking these things of you. And so you put this pressure on yourself, like, I really need to be aware and respectful and get from point A to point B as smoothly as possible. And when you're not as educated as you feel like you should be on the topics and X, Y, and Z, fill it in, it really takes a toll, especially because you're the one who's created the project from the ground up. Like this has solely been on you.
Yeah. And I was telling Tess about that because it's felt like the weight has been on my shoulders, but then I shifted it to, I have a lot more freedom because the weight is on my shoulders, like they've given me so much responsibility, but I have freedom to make the project in a sense how I want it to be. So then that is also very freeing to me. Although I do feel overwhelmed still, it's not as debilitating.
Keyword. Yeah.
Yeah. So
good job.
Yeah,
I'm super impressed.
Yeah, it took a few months to get there, to be honest, but
Yep.
I'm happy to be at that space now.
Good job.
Especially when I need it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the reason we're recording over the weekend is because this whole next week you're going to be doing the project.
Yeah.
Like all these months of planning.
Recording. Yeah.
Now is coming to fruition. You're actually sitting down and doing it.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. It's going to turn out very well. Madison's been receiving a lot of compliments from the people that she has been communicating with about how well spoken she is, and we all know that because we listen to her every single week. But
sometimes,
well, obviously sometimes we fucking flub, but
I fuck up. But yeah, no,
but
it'll be.
Who cares?
I'm human.
Don't we all?
Well, then I think about that, and I'm just like, I am human. Like I obviously, if you've been listening to the podcast or you know me, I hold myself to the highest of standards. So that's probably more overwhelming than just the project being on my shoulders. It's just like where I hold myself. But
yeah, for sure.
I'm going to do the best I can. And I know that's going to be fucking awesome.
Good job.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And then also, with the shift in perspective is I was also talking to Tess about this. The most popular conversation in the world, I feel like, is dating. So with dating, I hear from people that dating is really, I hear that dating can be really overwhelming. And everyone's like, oh, dating fucking sucks, you know? And then I feel like I change my perspective to how fun it is to get to know someone different and hear their experience. And then also how special it is to learn about yourself in the process of getting to know others.
Meaning like how you
figure out what you like. Yeah. How you show up. If you're speaking to a person that you've maybe spoken to a couple times, like versus you hang out with your friends, like how am I with this person, with this complete stranger? Like what's my personality like? Am I funny still? Like do they get my joke? Like am I intellectual?
Yeah. Or even like how do you tell your story?
Right. And how can I pull a conversation out of my ass when there's silence, you know? And like how comfortable are you when there is silence on a date?
These are all very interesting takeaways. Yeah.
It is really interesting.
And I think that it's very helpful that you are comfortable with yourself.
Correct.
And that you do spend a lot of time alone and you've spent a lot of time having conversations with yourself. Like you journal a lot and you are very in tune with your body and your mind. So I feel like for you, that type of situation isn't debilitating.
Correct.
Right? Like,
yes. Like I don't feel caught off guard or anything.
Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, this is a social experiment that only me and this other person are experiencing. So let's fucking do it.
Versus some people who, I don't know, like I'm trying to picture someone who's like maybe not as confident in that type of situation. Instead of viewing the silence as like, well, I wonder where this is coming from, or like, all right, let's pick it up again. If they would perceive it as like, maybe this person doesn't like me. And oh shit, like then they start overthinking the whole thing, and then they get awkward and silent.
Well, yeah, it's really funny because, and I went on a date, whatever you want to call it. I hung out and I went hiking.
Let's relax.
Okay, whatever, it's a date. Relax.
Because she's like, I went on a date or whatever. Like, yeah, why not?
Okay, on Saturday, and it was a hike, and that's my fucking jam. Is I love hiking, so I'm already in a place where I feel comfortable. And even I would get in my head, like as we were going uphill, I think that the guy was tired, which is fine. Like we were going up a hill. Okay. But then I even got in my head of like, oh my God, is this like too hard for him? Did I fuck up bringing him on this? And I would just laugh to myself. And I was like, who cares? Like this again is like, how can I switch the narrative in my brain of like being not so positive to like, all right, let's switch this around. What are we learning from this right now?
Yeah.
And obviously on a hike, I think about that already, like just like outside thoughts. And I figure a lot of things out on hikes. And that was still the case, even though another person was with me. But yeah, it's funny times.
Yeah. I mean, to think like, did I mess up? Like, is this too hard? No way. If
and
that's like well, whoever, but like who you would ideally be with is someone who's like, Jesus, Speedy Gonzalez, like slow the fuck down.
Right.
You know?
Or
like,
they would like try to fucking pass me and I'd be like, yeah, good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that I think that's why it's good to obviously take other people into consideration. But when it comes to dating, like really, truly just show up as you and that will all sort itself out. Because imagine if this is a very tiny example, right? But like imagine if you had slowed down over the thought that he can't keep up and like it's too hard for him and like he's feeling defeated. Well, then now if it does end up working out between you guys and you guys are interested in each other, then every time you go hiking, you're like, oh, actually, no, I just like went easy the first time, you know, or like this is the expected pace. Like he thinks you're fucking weak ass going up the hills.
It's just
like,
too much thinking.
You're burning
like,
rubber.
No,
like, let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that it is really fun to go on dates with people, even if you're just like, okay, well, I don't know if I'll hang out with you again, but that was cool.
Yeah, I think that that's a very good way to approach it because, you know, I think sometimes we all get in our heads of like, oh, we need to like, it needs to be perfect. Like we need to be perfect when we show up and like the whole thing. Nah, just like relax, have a little fun, get to know the person and like, you know, if it's meant to be, it'll be.
Yeah, and I feel like I am as honest as possible when I show up to those kind of things because this is what you're going to get. Like I don't want it to go be 2 months down the line and then you're like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah.
You know, like I'm just me when I get there. I wear the same clothes, same makeup, everything. Hat. Yeah. And a few comments were made by the guy that I was with that he didn't know, like, essentially how much of himself he could be with me because other people would say or told him that I wouldn't like that. I know. And so I'm like, dude, you need to show it up front or else if I see it in a month and I don't like it, it's going to be weird. So just show it now. Like, bring it. Like, I want to see everything.
Yeah, please don't keep that shit from me. And then I see and I don't like it. Then you like me because we're a month into this, and then I'm like, yo, no, that's not gonna work.
Right. It's interesting.
Yeah, I'd rather be in the know before feelings actually develop, so then we can make smarter decisions.
Right.
Versus now I have to break your heart because you're actually showing me the real you.
Yeah, and I don't like it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just fun to know other people's life experiences and then think about it with regard to yours. And you're just like, damn, so many people live so many different lives. Like, what a crazy thing.
It is.
So, yeah, those are my takeaways.
I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the thing we're going to end on is we have one of our dear friends, Maria. Hi, Maria. Say
hi. Love you.
One of my dear friend or our dear friends, Maria, came in to my work. She lives in London and she was just stopping through before she was leaving. And so I got to see her for like, I don't know, maybe an hour. And we always end up having these amazing talks. I think Maria is one of the wisest people I know. I just trust her and I love her.
And she's so authentic.
Yeah.
Like if we ever had a role model, it would be her of like how strong she stands within herself. I think that's why we're so attracted to it.
Maria's the fucking real
she's
deal.
The shit.
And she's so cool too.
Yeah.
You know? Okay. Enough about Maria, but kinda. But like, okay. So Maria always has this saying that she lives by, and I've heard her say it a few times. And every time I hear it, it just resonates deeper. And I want to share it with you guys because we brought it up when I saw her last week. But the quote is, have tough conversations and an easy life, or have easy conversations and have a tough life.
Yeah, that is good.
And I think, okay, a couple things I want to say about it is that goes in like every area, right? Like whether that's career or whether that's a romantic relationship or with friends, like you have to be able to speak what's on your mind and in a polite and easy to understand way. Right. Like you can't just be like barking orders at people and whatnot, but like you have to be able to have harder conversations because I've always found, and we were talking about this, is if you don't speak what's on your mind and you have things that are starting to build and build and build, obviously that's going to result in like either a big blow up or the break off of that relationship in whatever sense it is, all of those things. So Maria and I don't know, we were just talking about that. What were we talking about it in relation to? I don't even know. But yeah, she was just saying that ever since she heard that, she's really implemented it. And it has like changed her life. Like she is willing to have the tougher conversations in business and friendships and whatnot because ultimately that ends up smoothing things out for her. Versus if she doesn't speak up for herself and she doesn't say what's on her mind, then somehow it finds a way to kind of bite her in the ass. Like either she overcompromises or gets taken advantage of, or whatever the situation may be. She has to tolerate things that she doesn't agree with, like whatever it may be. She's found that the more she lives by that of like, okay, I have to have these tough conversations, the better her life is. And I find that to be true.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think myself now agrees with that more than myself 2 years ago or even a year ago, because this relates to what I was talking about this morning with my family. And I was having a conversation with my sister yesterday, and it was just really honest, as I think most conversations should be, especially with family. And it's just really, I was telling Tess that it is like a very heavy, but I also think that it is worth talking about. Like, I don't really want conversations that are not honest at this point, you know? Like, it just doesn't feel true or right to me.
Yeah, like if you're always avoiding like the harder, deeper stuff and it's just like surface level, then you don't even feel like you're really connecting with the person.
Right. Which is even, I think about it with regard to dating too, is that I want honesty always and deeper conversations than just surface level stuff. Obviously surface level stuff does come up because that stuff is funny too, and everyone goes through that in their life. But I also want to hear the deep stuff because I want some substance. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I thought that quote was worth sharing with you guys.
Yeah, great.
And living by. It's definitely something that I've kind of always lived by. And
yeah, for sure.
It honestly has in the past not been favorable, but I think it's because of the delivery I've had. And in recent times, my delivery has softened significantly. I feel like I've matured in many ways and a lot in the past probably year or so. Like, I just feel like a very different person. And when I approach harder or tougher conversations, I seem to do it with a little bit more ease. Not always, but like it's been going better than it has in the past because I have softened.
Well, so then my question is, so then it is because you've softened that you feel like your delivery is better? Like, how have you softened in that way? You know, like how, if you're having hard conversations, like how can it go from you just the delivery being harsh to it being received well?
I think my answer to that could be that I am a better listener. And I hold more space for the other perspective. Like, I don't necessarily sit in this high horse position where I think I'm right. It's just more so like I still pretty much stand firm in my beliefs and like I'm willing to communicate that, but in, I don't know, just like kind of a more gentle approach, and even my tone of voice, or how I'm willing to have those conversations versus like, no, fuck you. Like, I know what's right.
Yes.
Or like, you're dumb. Like, you don't even know what you're talking about.
That's right. Know? Yeah. I once heard a quote and I can't remember it exactly, and I wish I could, but one part of it was, is it more important for you to be right or for you to be something? I don't know if it was like for you to understand or just, yeah. And I always think about that because sometimes when I'm speaking to someone and I have a different perspective or opinion than them, I'm like, why do I need to prove that mine is the right one? You know, especially if it is going to make that other person upset. And if it's not really hurting me that much for them to think that they're right, I leave it alone, because why am I wasting energy on that? Yeah. So,
but food for thought, you know?
Yeah, I love it. Thanks, Maria.
Yeah. Okay, guys, I think that's it for us this week. Yeah.
Yeah, we're going to go for a hike and then have the most productive Sunday ever. Oh my God.
We're like, Philip, my boyfriend. Hi, honey. He was like, oh yeah, what are you doing today? And I was just like listing off all these fucking like big tasks that
like we're building our business. Yeah. We need to work out. We need to do our taxes. We need to help Madison with her upcoming project.
Like shit that's not necessarily weekend fun stuff, but
correct.
I don't know. I think that right now, I mean, we do find a good balance. We do go out, we do have vacations and stuff, but like right now we are very much so in hustle and like get it done mode, and we have to stay organized. Otherwise we're going to feel overwhelmed. So,
right. And then sometimes I will say that we don't have a typical schedule. So Sunday could technically be like a part of our work week versus like Wednesday felt like more of a Sunday.
Because
So
we have like a random day off.
we're
in the
lucky
week.
in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it all works. It works out.
Yeah.
So
But-
let's fucking do this.
Okay, we got a busy ass day. Wish us
let's
luck.
go. It's going to be great. Self-care we'll prioritize today to make it.
You know, and if you're hearing this
The
on the day
best
that
we
it comes
can.
out,
Yeah.
which is Wednesday, shoot Madison a little encouragement. Wish her, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
a successful rest
Yeah,
of the week. She
thank
will have already
you.
been 3 days in.
Of
So
recording
send her
12
some love.
episodes. Let's fucking go.
send her some love. Send me love
Yeah.
for those interviews I've got this
Yeah.
week. That whatever is meant to be will be.
Mhm.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. Make sure you're subscribed to the pod.
Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah, and if you're on YouTube, subscribe, like, and leave a comment. What do you want to see? I
yeah.
think that the comments help boost the views and the algorithm.
Yes.
So get in there and help out your Cowboys, okay?
That's right. Yes, agreed. I have nothing more to say. That's perfect.
Cool. All right, guys, we love you.
Thank you. Talk soon.